Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to the panel for coming. I want to just echo that everything that you've said rings true in my district in northern Indiana. And I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Bernstein for mentioning the RV industry. We have the majority of the industry in our district. So when we talk about 232 and some of those issues, it's raining even more clear. But the folks in my district in northern Indiana, the farmers, I have a friend of mine named Harold Parker, summed it up with one word. When asked about what's happening right now with these tariffs in northern Indiana, and he said the results are terrible. His gross income per acre dropped $100. He grows corn, soybeans, seed corn, and tomatoes as a way to diversify and provide a buffer if one of those is having a bad year. The problem is that right now, everything is down. Another family farm in my district grows 3,200 acres of corn and 3,000 acres of soybeans, estimates they've lost $700,000 in gross income since June 1st because of the price drops in both. One thing I've heard Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross repeatedly say is essentially this, quote, well, if China's buying more Brazilian soybeans, the U.S. can just sell to wherever Brazil isn't selling anymore. Basically, he's saying that U.S. agriculture can fill the void wherever Brazil and others are abandoning in order to sell to China or the EU. Is it really that simple? Is it really just the one brush stroke away? And if not, I don't care who reins in on it. Can I just ask you to talk about it? Why is it not that simple?
Thank you for the question.
Sure.
It is not that simple. There will be a certain amount of rebalancing the world supply, but there are two things that you don't want to happen. We do not want to give up and be a residual supplier to China. They're the biggest consumer of protein in the world, and they are also a huge opportunity for the wheat market, and that is not something that we want to give up and be a residual supplier. The other thing that makes that a little bit more difficult is that there are sanitary, phytosanitary regulations that mean it may not be necessarily possible to take U.S. soybeans, U.S. wheat, whatever it is, and then automatically send it to Brazil, Argentina, whatever the void in the market is. It's not necessarily a straightforward, we just ship it all to Argentina and then really it could go to China. Those type of regulations could impede how that plays out in the world market.
Anybody else want to comment?
As simplistic as it seems, these markets are not fungible by any means. And we would never want to forego the opportunity to sell to, say, the Chinese customer. They're very discerning. I mean, don't get me wrong. They understand the products that they buy from us, and they're willing to pay for those products. I've been an athlete my whole life, and there's no handicaps in athletics. You have to have fundamentals and confidence to execute on a level playing field. That's why there's rules. That's why there's boundaries and lines on a football field or on a basketball court. Nobody handicapped Larry Bird. He earned that right to be an all-star. And that's all we're asking is let's level this playing field, and I get where we're headed. I'm patriotic, and I get how there's going to be some pain shared. Make sure the pain's shared amongst all industries. It's $1 trillion of high-tech money sitting overseas. Make sure they're sharing in the pain of this IP protection, because agriculture is high profile. To answer Mr. Smith's question, we're high profile. We're easy. There's an apple grown in darn near every state, so it's easy to get under the skin of your ag producers and make a difference. That's why we're here. But these markets are not fungible, so we can't just pick up and send an apple as an apple and as apple. There's no way it works that way.
I appreciate it. And I just wanted to pass along to you all what I tell my farmers every day. Indiana is the 5th largest exporter in the country, and this matters so much to the majority of the farms in Indiana that are family farms. And, you know, a lot of them a couple of weeks ago said, hey, you know what, we'll do the short-term pain for the long-term gain. But just last week when I had a little summit with a lot of my farmers, they're nervous. They're nervous that the long-term gain here may be much longer than what they thought, and they can't ride this through. But I just want to thank you for what you do. You know, there's very few professions, I think, that I can honestly say, having been raised and currently living in a rural area, that I really honor to really say that you take so much risk. And for the generations that are sitting here, you've taken so much risk through the generations, and to basically engage and be responsible for a global food supply. And for that, I thank you. We want to do everything that we can to have your back and to make sure that our ag economy continues to roll forward with a lot of strength. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for what you do. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Kind.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the panelists for your testimony coming here and giving us some insight.